Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Japan once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a couple of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last little while. They are still a very new addition to the Japanese beer scene, but they've built up a very good reputation for themselves despite that short existence thus far. If people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, although in recent times they have been doing a few sour beers as well, kind of modern, fruity, juicy sours, so I need to have a little look at those on the channel at some point in the future. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I've had from them many times before. It's one that I know these guys can do very, very well, and it's one of their latest releases here in Hong Kong. So yeah, quite curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us, and definitely cool to find this brewery's beer here in Hong Kong and to see a few of the Japanese breweries getting their beer out there a little bit more. You know, in Japan, most breweries tend to kind of stick to Japan itself or even to their local area, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, let's see what this one has in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to a little place called Nagakuta, which is in Aichi Prefecture, quite close to Nagoya, right in the middle of Japan, I guess you could say. And that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Totopia Brewery. So this particular beer is called Blue-phobia. It comes in at 7% ABV. And they're describing this one as an oat cream hazy IPA. So this is the first time we've had an oat cream beer from Totopia, but we've had a good number of New England hazies from these guys so far. I think this is review number 4 or 5 that I'm doing on the channel involving this brewery. But very solid brewery in my experience, and yeah, one of the best hazy producers in Japan at the moment actually. So definitely cool to find one of their beers here in Hong Kong. I bought this one at Gur Beer in the One Mall in Chimshatchui, which is where I get quite a lot of the beers that I'm reviewing for you here at the moment. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Totopia Brewery before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things, and that is being added to fairly regularly while I'm out here in Asia because yeah, the Japanese beers are pretty good and I can get a hold of them a lot more easily. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Totopia once again. So Totopia Brewery, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Nagakuta in Aichi Prefecture, which is just out to the east of Nagoya, and the brewery was founded back in 2022, and it's the latest venture of the team behind Beer Pub Brick Lane in the city. So Beer Pub Brick Lane was founded back in 2014 by Junya Morita and his wife Akiko along with 3 friends, but it's become a very well-known beer and burger spot in the city. But the following year they started the Nagoya Craft Beer Map and started market research into the US in order to form their own import company, and they began importing American beers into Japan back in 2017. But they then opened up their own beer shop known as Used Like New Beer in 2018, and this also acts as a sort of sandwich shop as well. So these 2 venues are ones that I do plan to visit in Nagoya at some stage. I do want to go up there and do some filming and things. You might see Jordan from Outside or Inside Japan on some of those videos as well. We do want to go and explore those beer venues. But at this point, once they got the new shop up and running, they wanted to get into brewing beer, so they started making plans to form their own brewery. So the name Totopia was chosen using a combination of the Japanese word toto, which means like precious, valuable, revered, and also utopia, so combine it together, Totopia. This is a very popular thing in Japan. They like to combine Japanese and English words, and because of this you find some really unusual names. But the location of the brewery had originally been decided as Seto City, but this had to be changed suddenly, and they found the current plot of 600 square metres in Nagakuta, which is out to the east of Nagoya, as I mentioned, and the brewery was constructed, and they released their first beers during the second half of 2022, and they plan to focus on using local ingredients in their beers wherever possible, and they also want to harvest their own hops at some point as well. But like I said, over the last couple of years they've been steadily building their reputation. They're known as one of the best New England hazy producers in Japan at the moment, and they have been experimenting a little bit more with the kind of modern fruity juicy sour beers and stuff like this. So yeah, hopefully we see a few more styles from them going forward, like some lagers and some different kinds of IPAs and stuff like this as well. But yeah, we'll just need to see what they produce. But as of March 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 90 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But yeah, let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself. If you want to learn a little bit more about the brewery, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and do this one then. So just so you know, this is a half-litre can rather than the 440 or the 473 American pint. In Japan, there's quite a few of these breweries now doing the half litres. They use the German measurements, which I like. But yeah, as we said earlier, this one comes in at 7% ABV. They're describing it as an oat cream hazy IPA. It's hopped with Citra Incognito, Chinook, Mosaic, Citra, and Nectaron Cryo. So we know all of these hops quite well. Citra, of course, is one of your classic American hops. 14% alpha acid, gives you big, juicy kind of mango notes and a good bit of lemon lime in a New England IPA. Chinook is one of your old school, more bittering hops. 12% alpha acid, if I remember correctly, and it gives you that big sort of grapefruity and piney resinous character. Mosaic, 14% alpha acid. And that gives you a nice kind of juicy tangerine with a little bit of earthiness. And then Nectaron is the only New Zealand hop in this one. The other three are from America, but Nectaron is about 14% alpha acid as well, if I remember correctly, and it gives you this kind of peachy, pineapple-y type quality. So yeah, should be quite nice. But there you can see the Totopia, one of the Totopia symbols on the side of the can there, and you can see the artwork on this one is that nice butterfly. I've never figured out why they call all their beers after some kind of phobia, to be honest with you. I'll need to ask them about that at some point in the future. But yeah, certainly nicely presented. This one, my first Totopia beer here in Hong Kong. So let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. The Blue-phobia at 7% ABV, an oat cream New England IPA. So let's do this. Just be careful with it so the head doesn't go crazy. And this will be interesting too, because the other Totopia beers that I've had have always been quite fresh, and this one is fairly fresh, but not as fresh as the ones that I pick up in Osaka. So this will be quite cool too. You can kind of tell from the bumpiness of the head that this beer is not in its absolute freshest condition. I've had this one a couple of weeks in the fridge actually, and of course it's been imported here to Hong Kong. So we'll be seeing what one of these Totopia beers is like with a few weeks on it. So yeah, anyway, you can see when the beer poured, I had about a finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head, but quite bumpy head, as you could see at the top there. There's some medium-sized bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid, and it gets a little bit foamier the further up the head that you go. But yeah, overall, it looks the part. In terms of the colour of this one, as you would expect with an oat cream New England IPA, it's a little bit lighter. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. It can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer and things like that too, but you don't often have to care about adding adjuncts and stuff into your New England IPAs. I will say though, the level of haze on this one for a 7%er is pretty impressive, and that it probably is due to the use of oat cream. But yeah, it's certainly one of the superior and gloopier 7%ers that I've seen. So remember, the haze in these beers depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. But colour-wise, I would certainly describe it as being more akin to a sort of mango juice rather than anything else. But yeah, lovely, lovely colour this one. I do think it goes together very, very nicely. So yeah, appearance-wise, it gets a thumbs up from me. You can see if I put my hand behind it, it's got some really nice, it looks very nice. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But yeah, it certainly looks good, this one. And it is pretty much what we would expect from the style. So let's have a wee look at the nose on this one and see what it's all about. I don't think we need to say very much more on the appearance. So yeah, let's look at the nose. Oh yeah. So aroma-wise, it's pretty damn nice. You can tell that this one obviously isn't quite as fresh as the other ones I've had before, but it still smells pretty damn good actually. Yeah. So you're getting everything you'd expect out of this one. It actually comes across as being quite a citrusy leaning New England IPA. This, you've got a lovely kind of very bright green component to it, quite grassy, big kind of citrusy zesty fruits, and you also have that wee bit of a more kind of oaty, you know, you can obviously get a bit more of that oaty smoothness in there, but you can smell that it's a little bit drier. As I've often said on the channel before, the oaty character of New England IPAs is very often a good indicator of how fresh they are. Essentially, the drier the oats are, the older the beer is, the more creamy and the more kind of creamy they are, the fresher the beer is. You can smell a little bit of dryness in this one, but I suspect when we actually taste it, because it's oat cream rather than regular oats, it might just be a little bit different actually. So we'll need to bear that in mind. But yeah, the aroma on this one is very, very nice actually. So let's just kind of break it down and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. And as I've often said, for me, there are 6 elements to think about with this style of beer. You've got the kind of farmhousey, yeasty character, the rye leaning, grainy side of things. Those are a bit more common in American brewed New England IPAs, but you've got wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things. I'm going to say straight away, this is obviously a more oaty leaning New England IPA, but I think there is quite a bit of wheat in this one, and also a good little bit of the barley malt character showing its head as well. So we need to bear that in mind. But yeah, let's break it down and describe it as we always do. So yeah, the backbone of the beer is of course that fresh white bready bread crust. Absolutely, that forms the backbone of the beer. Beyond that, you start to get a little bit of a kind of woodiness coming out of it. So yeah, a little bit of woodiness in there, Jacob's cream cracker. Yeah, woodiness, Jacob's cream cracker. Quite a lot of white bread in this one. You can smell the barley malt, and it's quite interesting, this one, because it has a little bit of an almost grainy, rusticy character to it, the white bready notes that are coming out of this. So I do wonder if they're using some kind of Japanese grain in this one. Most farmland in Japan there's not a lot, to be quite honest, when you think about it. But most farmland in Japan is used for growing vegetables rather than grains, and they grow a lot of rice as well, obviously, for sake production and just eating. But yeah, the malty character in this one is really nice actually. So for me, you have yeah, there's quite a lot of as I say, I'm getting quite a lot of nice kind of like, yeah, fresh fluffy white bread, but it's got a wee touch of graininess to it as well. So yeah, wee touch of graininess, as I say, a little bit of fluffy character as well. You've got some nice, you can definitely smell a bit of wheat in this one. At the back of the nose, you're certainly getting a wee bit more of that wheaty, bitey character coming out of the beer. So yeah, wheaty bitiness for sure. Then above that, you've got the kind of creamy, oaty notes coming out of this one, which I think are absolutely great. So yeah, lovely creamy, oaty character, wheaty, bitey notes in there, and you've also got that little bit of You've also got a good, just a little touch of sweetness in this one as well. But yeah, you can smell the oatiness in this one. There's a bit of creaminess in there. You are getting a little bit of dryness, of course. But yeah, there's a wee touch of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. So yeah, aroma-wise, this is pretty damn good. On the malty side of things. But yeah, the more I smell of it, the more kind of barley malt and kind of wheaty bitiness I get out of it. I really do like that. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So on the yeah, I think on the malty side of things we don't really need to say much more. So let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer. So as I've mentioned on the channel many times before, when it comes to IPAs, there are 3 types of hoppings you can do. You can do early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil. That gives you mainly bitterness and quite a deep, dank flavour and aroma. Late addition hopping within the last half hour of the wort boil, that gives you mainly flavour and aroma, but a little bit of bitterness, and it translates to very kind of bright, zesty sort of green component. And then after the wort boil is complete, that's when you've got dry hopping, and that's all about flavour and aroma. And again, that translates to a very bright green component as well. So yeah, with this beer, you're getting a lot of kind of zesty, grassy and floral character. So remember, New England IPAs rely on late addition and dry hopping. West Coast IPAs use all 3. So yeah, with this one, there's a little bit of earthiness in there for sure. So yeah, lovely little bit of earthy character for me. There's a nice little bit of floral aromaticity as well. The earthiness in this one's going to come from the Chinook and the Mosaic, incidentally. But yeah, definitely a lot of kind of slightly spicy, kind of floral character in there. And then yeah, you've got that nice kind of zesty, grassy type note coming out of the beer as well. So yeah, the way everything pieces together in this one, I think, is really very, very nice. Yeah, aroma wise, I really do like how this pieces together. Yeah, for me, the green component in this one is really quite nice. You have to remember the incognito that's in here, it tends to give you a sort of smoother, more oily green component as well. But I think the other hops are kind of covering that a little bit, to be honest with you. I don't get so much of the oiliness of the beer actually. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I have to say, the way that goes together is really quite nice. Yeah, I don't think we need to say anything more about the green component, to be honest with you. But it's quite zesty, I have to say that. So let's focus on the fruity side of things. For me, I can smell a little bit of the grapefruit in this one, which I'm guessing is from the Chinook. And the Citra is going to contribute to that as well. But yeah, definitely some nice kind of big passion fruity notes in there. And that's going to be, yeah, the passion fruit and the big juicy mango. That's going to be, I think there's a bit of a sharper peach too. And I think the peach is most likely to come from the nectaron. Yeah, there's quite a bit of that sharper peach in there with the grapefruit. Passion fruit, big juicy mangoes, those are more likely to come from the Citra. And I'm getting some nice kind of pineapple too, and that's going to come from the nectaron. So yeah, the combination of things that come together in this beer are really quite interesting. I'm getting a good little bit of lemon lime out of this one as well, which I think is going to be from the Citra too. But interestingly, it takes a wee bit of time for the it does take a little bit of time for the orangey character from the Mosaic to show its head. So yeah, that's pretty interesting too, I would say. Yeah, that's quite quirky, to be honest with you. I really do like how that pieces together. Yeah, aroma wise, that is very, very interesting. But lovely smelling beer, this one. Certainly up to the standards I would expect of Totopia. And it has me very, very curious, I have to say. So yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Blue-phobia, an oat cream IPA. It's 7% an oat cream hazy IPA, I should say, at 7% ABV from the wonderful Totopia Brewery in Nagakuta, Aichi Prefecture, close to Nagoya in central Japan. Let's get stuck in. Slanja, skål, cheers, kanpai. Oh yeah, pretty damn solid, I have to say. I wouldn't expect anything less. And I will say that this has held up pretty well, actually. If you think that this is, it's probably about 2 months old or something like that at this point, but it has held up very, very well. So yeah, that is very, very nice. Yeah, very good beer, I have to say, and I'm not surprised. But yeah, it's kind of, that's one of the things about it. 7% ABV, this one. It's got a really nice body to it, and it's still very, very drinkable and things. So yeah, this is pretty nice, actually. So let's just break this down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth, as we always do. So, another little sip then. Tell you something, since I put that last little bit in there, it got quite a little bit more juicy and a little bit thicker. There must have been a wee bit of sediment at the bottom there. But anyway, so, middle third of your palate then. The backbone of your beer is, of course, that fresh, white bready bread crust. As I say, that goes together really, really nicely. Fresh, white bready bread crust, kind of like a sort of hedgehog roll, I would say. As you go further forward on that middle third of your palate, there's definitely a wee bit more of a kind of slightly woody character in there, and then you've got a layer of kind of Jacob's cream cracker, that's for sure. Yeah, so a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker in there, and then above that you start to get the bready notes out of the beer. So there's a lovely, there's like a layer of like a slightly sweeter brown bread in there. So yeah, Jacob's cream crackers, sweeter brown bread, and then above that there's a more fluffy white bready character coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that pieces together is also very, very nice. Yeah. Yeah. So you've got that lovely, you've got a little bit of that kind of sweeter wholemeal brown bread in there, the fluffier white bread, and then yeah, above that you can definitely feel the more dense kind of wheaty note coming out of this one. And the wheat in this is quite interesting because it feels a little bit more kind of bitey, has a little bit of that more bitiness to it. And as I've said on the channel before, American wheat for me is a little bit smoother, European wheat is a little bit more kind of bitey and dry and stuff like that. So yeah, the way all of that pieces together in this one, I think, is really interesting too. So yeah, wheaty bitiness, definitely a nice little bit of bread as well. And yeah, I do like how that goes together, so it gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, so on top of all of that, you start to get the oats, and you can feel the more dense oat cream. So as you go down the middle line of your palate, you've got that sweeter, more dense, kind of character from the oats. And as you move out toward, you can feel that slightly smoother, creamier sort of thing. And as you move out toward the edges of that middle third of your palate, you've got a wee bit more of you've got a wee bit more of an oaty dryness in there as well, which is quite nice. But in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel there's just a little circle there, which is has a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of vibe to it, which I do really like. So yeah, that Werther's Original butter candy butterscotchy sort of thing is in there. And as you move further out from that, you get a little bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuit as well. And of course, all of that just sits on top of the oaty character that I described. But yeah, that's the middle third of your palate then. So yeah, I like that. But yeah, let's have a little look at the back third of your palate then. So for me, the back third of your palate, you often get the similar flavours there compared to as you do in the middle third of your palate. They're just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you've got a little bit of brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and a wee bit of the wheaty bitiness up there. But then yeah, the base of the back third of your palate, you've got the same bread crusty character that's in there, but just a little bit drier and a bit more grainy. Above that, you've got a wee bit more kind of Jacob's cream crackery type character to it as well. Then above that, you've got a wee bit more of a kind of, you get a little bit of the kind of wholemeal brown bready character that I was talking about, but it's a little bit lighter and more airy. Then you can feel the white bready character above that, and the bitiness of the wheat just creeps over the top of the bitiness of the wheat just kind of creeps over the top of all of that. So yeah, I do like how that pieces together as well. But yeah, above everything else on that back third of the palate, you start to get the kind of yeasty side of this beer as well. So for me, the yeasty side of this one's quite interesting because you can feel in the middle of that yeasty character there, you've got a bit of a more dense, brown bready character coming out of this one. You can feel that dense, sweet, brown bready character there, then it's got a bit of white bread around it and a wee bit of a crusty sort of thing there, and just a little bit of spice. So you can feel all of that just sitting above the back third of your palate, and definitely you can feel the flavour of that back third of your palate is taller, and as you move into the kind of middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and sort of squashes together that little bit more. But let's have a wee look at the hoppy side of this beer then. So back corners of the palate with this one, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there for sure, and that's going to be the mosaic that gives you that, and I think the Chinook will to some degree as well, especially since it's in the pellet form. But as you move further forward, you can feel there's a little bit of that piney resinous character. Again, that's going to come from Chinook. All of the hops in this one, though, incidentally, are capable of giving you a more kind of spicy floral note. You have to remember that. But yeah, as you move further forward, you've got a little bit of that kind of piney resinous character, and as you reach the front corners of your palate, definitely gives you a little bit more kind of spicy floral aromaticity. But yeah, around the front curve of your tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy for sure, and I do like how that pieces together in this one as well. So yeah, a little bit of a more kind of light grassy sort of thing going on with this beer as well, and it's quite zesty. As I say, the green component in this beer has a lot of the same zestiness that I was picking up in the aroma. But yeah, green component on this one is pretty good. So let's have a little look at the front third of your palate then and the fruity side of things. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of brown bread in the base and the white bread on the top. There's a wee bit of wheatiness there. But yeah, the base of that front third of your palate, you've got the bread crusty sort of thing, the brown bread, the white bread, and a wee bit of the wheat. And the wheat's a little bit smoother on that front third of your palate, but then above all of that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, fruity side of this beer is yeah, it's a lot softer and more tropical, I would say, the more that I drink of it. The fruity side of the beer is one of the things where this beer diverges from what you would expect based on the aroma. But yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, there's definitely a wee bit more of a, you do get a little touch of that kind of grapefruity note there, but it takes a bit of a backseat. You'd certainly get some peach, which is going to come from the nectar on a bit more, but you will also get that from citra to a degree. But yeah, as you move further forward, you get the softer passion fruit, the big juicy mangoes, and then yeah, in the middle of your tongue, there's a little bit of the drier apricot, wee bit of pineapple in there as well. So yeah, I do like how that pieces together. Yeah, as I say, peach, apricot, passion fruit, pineapple for sure, juicy mango in there as well. There is definitely mango. Then as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, it's more about the kind of, I would say there's a little bit of like the lemony note from the Citra for sure underneath, but it's more about the kind of orangey, tangerine characters from the mosaic, and that's for sure. Yeah, the way all of that pieces together, I think, is really nice. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. The fruity side of this beer really mellows out and softens up the more that you drink of it for sure too. But all in all, another very good New England hazy from Totopia, and I wouldn't expect any less. You do feel this one feels a bit thicker than some of the other ones that we've had, but these beers are always good. They are always very good. But let's round off this review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer, yeah, right in the middle of the spectrum, mid-bodied. The carbonation does have a little bit of a prickle in this one, but that might well just be because the beer's that little bit older. I think this one's maybe about 2 months old or something like that, but still in very good condition. But yeah, IBU wise, I think it's a fairly standard 30 IBU beer. It does have a little bit more zestiness and grassy and floral character to it though, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I really like that about this one. On the malty side of things, it's a bit drier underneath, smoother in the middle, and a bit kind of creamier and sweeter on top. But yeah, not much sweetness to this one, I would say. We've covered the IBU, and then the fruity character to this is really nice. I think it gets a bit more citrusy and zesty the further into the aftertaste that you go to. But all in all, as I say, another very positive experience with Totopia Brewery. So I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Blue-phobia, a 7% oak cream IPA from Totopia in Nagakuta, near Nagoya in Aichi Prefecture in Japan. So yeah, you should be seeing some more Japanese reviews very soon. In fact, I might save this video for just before I start filming a couple of reviews in Japan for you again. So keep your eyes peeled for those. We'll keep this review back a little bit. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Totopia as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until then, Sláinte, Skål, cheers, Kampai, and I'll see you guys in another review very soon. Do check out Totopia because these guys are very good.